this is Craig Stevens, and we're creating this podcast for a group studying for their PMP certification. And for this podcast, our subject will be project roles. People who are connected to projects, their titles, and what they actually do. You can find the information that this podcast is related to on the website. Now, I have a camera above my computer, and I'm looking at the website below my computer, so my eyes will be darting up and down. And also, I have material related to the PMP in front of me. So the first thing we want to do, these are the standard project roles. To find this subject, you would go to westbrookstevens.com/, the word project, underline space, the word management, the number 1, .htm. And if you scroll down till you see standard project roles, you will click on that, and you will find the first project role, which is the sponsor. And I am going to explain a little bit, and I'm going to try to read from the PMP and from, not necessarily read, but tell you the gist of what's on the PMP. Okay, the project sponsor is the person or organization paying for the project. And this person would issue the project charter. It also be the same group that would drive the project scope. So the preliminary scope statement would come from this group. It would formally accept the product at the end. It would formally expect to accept the product at the end. It would assist with the customer-related issues. Could also be the customer. So the project sponsor may be within the company that you work at, may be a client or customer you're working for, but you could actually have a sponsor who is the customer itself. And an example I have would be maybe Vice President of Sales may sponsor a project to upgrade customer relationship management software, and that person would actually be responsible, would be the person who's sponsoring that particular software. Now, on our website, we have a couple more things. We have the sponsor may be an executive sponsor or a project sponsor. The individual who has ultimate authority over the project. The executive sponsor champions the project, provides funding, resources issues, resolves issues and scope changes, improves major deliverables, and several other things. So let me see. Go a little further. And the next subject we have is senior management. Senior management plays a role in the project. Now, as a project manager, these are all the people you have to think about when you're actually designing your project or actually going through and planning your project. So the senior management, and actually the whole part, everything related to project, you have to deal with these people. So the senior management, that's a person or group responsible for the operation of the business. So they may set strategic goals. They may prioritize and build a portfolio, so prioritize the projects and put the projects that they want you to work on as a project manager into a portfolio. Now, a portfolio we haven't described yet, but portfolios are the makeup of the projects that you select in order to go through a change. As a company will plan strategically, they will look at the number of changes they want to make or the direction they want to go in, and they'll select a number of those projects, put it in a portfolio. Well, senior management is the one who designs the strategy and comes up with the strategy, and that's where the portfolio of projects comes from. Okay, the project manager is the person who's ultimately responsible for managing the success of the project. Now, that's the person that handles all of the project management life cycle, does everything from the concept phase, involved in the concept phase, goes through the planning phase, the execution phase, and the closure phase. That's a person. Now, you may have other people involved. For example, if you're an IT department somewhere, you may have someone who's ultimately responsible for the product, and that could be the person designing the software. It could be a systems engineer, for example, and there's a systems life cycle for the product design. Well, there's also a project life cycle for implementing the change, and part of that change may be developing the software. So that gets a little complicated. You may have more than one life cycle in a project. You have the actual project management life cycle, and you could have a product management life cycle. Two different things. So the project manager would identify requirements. So they're responsible for identifying requirements. They're responsible for setting clear and achievable goals. They're responsible for managing completing stakeholder expectations. So they're going through the requirements documentation maybe and trying to make sure that everything's checked off that's required by the client. Now that brings us to another subject. You could have a business analyst who actually interviews the client, prepares the requirements documents, and who is a third party, not the project manager, not the client, but it gives you an extra layer of resource so that you can actually have a wall between the project manager, maybe the systems engineer, and the client, and that person would create that person's role as a BA would be coming up with the requirements and making sure that everything's done the way it's supposed to be done related to the product. Okay, now the project manager also will be directing the team activities. And remember, you may have a technical person such as a systems engineer directing the project the product team activities, and the project manager may be over that. Gets a little confusing, but you can have a person managing the development of software, for example, and you also have the person implementing the change, and part of that could be developing the software. Alright, the project manager authorized to use project resources, and they're authorized to look at the budget, to control the staff and manage the staff, the facilities, and time schedule, and all those things. The project manager should be proactive. That word's overused a lot, but you should think about making decisions before you actually need to make decisions. So you should put those into place. That person is basically the CEO of the project, and that's what a project manager does. Now there's different project roles that are not project manager, and for example, you could have the title project manager and never be a project manager. You could be a project coordinator. So that's not really a project manager. That's less responsibilities than a project manager. There's similar resource authority but lacks the financial authority. So PMBOK says a project coordinator does not work with a budget, for example. Responsible for executing the work plan. So that's a person that maybe coordinated work plan, and I guess you could have a project coordinator in supporting of a project manager if it's large enough, or you could have just a project coordinator, but then you lack some of the necessary responsibilities that the project manager would have. Now there's another layer of project management, which is not a project manager, but this is a project expediter. So now we have a project manager. This person does everything. Project coordinator doesn't worry about, that person will not worry about financial, does not have the financial authority. And the expediter has no resource or financial authority. So that person can't even control the resources. That person the expediter is responsible for identifying and reporting variances and how things are changing. Now the control quality means you control variances. So an expediter may support a project manager and identify and report on the variances, on changes, and how far away from the targets you are. The expediter reports to a higher authority, and the highest authority may be the sponsor in this case.